Hi guys, it's Josh Lloyd here giving you your NBA DraftKings first look for Wednesday. While you're here, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, give it a thumbs up as well. We were supposed to have a 12-game slate. Now we had a 9-game slate, and now we're back to a 10-game slate. So let's talk about those 10 games that are currently scheduled in the NBA for Wednesday. And the first one of those should be an absolute reverse barn burner. The Knicks and the Magic, not a bunch of particularly high potency offenses here. And just so you know, at this point there are no spreads or totals out for any game apart from the Blazers and Pelicans game. The Knicks and the Magic, there is no Cole Anthony for Orlando, while Evan Fournier is questionable. James Ennis is also questionable. Michael Carter-Williams then at 4,900 looks to be a pretty good option. He will be the starting point guard. He will rack up some pretty good counting stats. I like him in this one. Derrick Rose at 48 is more of a GPP player, while someone like Nikola Vucevic at 10-1, you feel like he's just going to get you 50 almost every time. Nerlens Noel's an interesting one. The first two starts have been okay. They haven't really been great in terms of DFS points. He's got 24 in the last one in 27 minutes, but at 4,700, he's absolutely on my list of players to use. And so is Rowan Barrett at 5,700. He got back over 30 minutes last game, but I'm not trusting that completely. Julius Randle, the double royal, is at 9,500. His numbers of late have been great. Now, this Magic team, of course, is beaten up, so I do like using Randle here in this one. And there's not a huge amount else that I'm massively into. Maybe Terrence Ross, but they have bumped him up to 6,300. If we hear Fournier and Ennis are both out, Ross becomes, I think in that scenario, a pretty good situation for us, or it is a pretty good situation for us to use him in that case. Next up, we look at the Atlanta Hawks. They are taking on the Boston Celtics. Back-to-back for Boston, so we won't have Kemba Walker. So that means that Peyton Pritchard, who let us down in the start last time, but he gets another opportunity to be a starter. And we see that start back here against the Pistons, 29 minutes. He has 3,800, he had 7 points. Obviously, that's horrendous, but the game before, he had 30 fantasy points. And at 4,200, I will take that risk on Peyton Pritchard again. Jason Tatum's at 8,700, not playing particularly well, but this is a good matchup for Tatum. He is still, as he says, dealing with the after effects of COVID. So that obviously is having an impact on his drive and his explosion. I think that's probably a better way of phrasing that. And we don't know what's going on with the centers. Daniel Tice missed on Tuesday. If he is out, we're looking at the Rock DJ Rob Williams at 3,100. He had 5 steals on Tuesday or in Tuesday's game. And if Tice is out, Williams will push those minutes up. Johnny Collins is down at 6,900. And a 6,900 from John Collins is not bad. Now, his recent form has not been good. 27 over the last 3 is pretty poor, but this is an opportunity for John to put up some good numbers. I like Jaylen Brown at 79, and I like Trae Young at 9,600 quite a bit as well. The Rockets, they take on the Philadelphia 76ers, Daryl Morey against his former team. No Victor Oladipo, no Eric Gordon, while Joel Embiid is likely to return for the let me think of the name of the team. Philadelphia 76ers. That's the team that Joel Embiid plays for. He's likely to return after missing the game against the Jazz. I do like John Wall here, 7,800 with no Oladipo and no Eric Gordon. He's going to get a ton of usage, and he's averaging 43 over the last 3. While David Nwaba is at 4,300. Nwaba had a massive game against the Wizards, 42 fantasy points there. I wouldn't trust him to do that, but 23, 24, 25, maybe. Joel Embiid's at 10,800. I reckon he might have an absolute field day against DeMarcus Cousins and whatever else the Rockets are going to throw out at center. As for Boogie at 65, he's been nowhere near that, so I won't be going that direction, while Ben Simmons has been putting up absolute monsters. He's at 9,200. He's coming off a 75-point game against the Jazz. That was without Embiid, but had another 50-point game just 2 games ago. It is a little hard to trust him when Embiid is there, especially at that elevated salary, though. Toby Harris at 76, I think, is a good cash play, while Jayshawn Tate at 55, pretty similar. Not a bad cash option given the way that he's playing and those other injuries there in Houston. Let's go next game. We've got the Indiana Pacers taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Wolves, of course, will be without D'Angelo Russell after it was announced that he was having knee surgery today. So we look at Ricky Rubio in that starting lineup. I wouldn't say that Rubio at 6,100 is a bargain play by any means, but he's at least in the mix. I do like Jared Vanderbilt at 4,200. He is their starting power forward at the time, or for the current time. They are on a back-to-back here, but I like that. I like Karl Anthony Towns at 93, and I like Malik Beasley at 7,100. With Russell out, those two are going to get a ton of shots. TJ McConnell's at 5,600. He started last game in place of Doug McDermott, so let's pay attention to see whether he gets another opportunity there. While the 9,700 for Domantas Sabonis, I think in this matchup, makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. I like Anthony Edwards a little bit as well at 6,000. I think there is value in using Big Ant at that sort of price. The next game is a game that has been rescheduled. It wasn't on the slate. These teams were both scheduled to play other teams, the Pistons against the Mavericks and the Bulls against the Hornets. But with those games being postponed, then they're playing each other now. So here we go. Detroit in Chicago to take on the Bulls. Wendell Carter Jr. is at 5,500. I worry there a little bit about the minutes. I don't worry about the minutes for Delon Wright, who's putting up absolutely huge numbers at this point, averaging 37 over the last 5. He looks pretty good to me. There's no Otto Porter, again, here for the Bulls, and no Lauri Markkanen. 9,400 for Zach LaVine, I think, looks pretty strong, while Kobe White at 63. White's actually averaging 38 points over the last 3 games. And I think that does make a bit of sense to use him, while Jeremy Grant at 76 is doing the opposite. He's actually trending downwards, Jeremy, at this stage, averaging under 30 points over his last 3 contests. Josh Jackson's at 6,300. I think that price has gone up too high, as it has for Big Deke Energy. Sadiq Bey at 5,500. Now, Bey is putting up big numbers. Sorry, reigning Eastern Conference Player of the Week, Sadiq Bey, is putting up good numbers. Really strong numbers. 37 DraftKings points last game. 50 the game before that. But look at that shooting. 11 of 15 from 3. 10 of 12 from the field. 6 of 11 from the field. He did have 3 steals in one game and 6 assists. That was a fantastic performance. And 12 rebounds. And he's going to start with no Blake Griffin. But the 5,500 salary, I'm not sure it's anything more than a GPP look at this point. Just call me skeptical that he's going to be an 80% three-point shooter as he moves forward in his career. Real skeptical about that. The next game that we take a look at here, we're looking at the Denver Nuggets. They're taking on the Washington Wizards in this matchup. Back-to-back for the Nuggets. Gary Harris probably won't play. Will Barton is questionable. Monty Morris is questionable as well. Mo Wagner's at 3,800. You've got to like what Wagner's doing. He had 29 points last game. He should be the starting center, and at sub 4,000, it's pretty hard not to use him. Now, foul trouble against Big Chungus Nikola Jokic is going to be an issue, but I think that he's worth looking at. While Brad Beal at 98 looks relatively strong, especially in a cash game scenario. I wouldn't want to trust Bertans. I wouldn't want to trust Garrison Matthews, and I damn sure wouldn't want to trust Michael Porter Jr., who's been atrocious. Big Chungus Nikola Jokic is at 11,000. That is expensive, and I think we can find better value in other areas. Maybe the other areas is the headmaster, Jamal Murray, at 7,100, who has started to play at a much higher level, and Westbrook's at 10,000. Westbrook's only playing like 32, 33 minutes at the moment, and not really hitting that 50 mark consistently, so that's probably why I'd end up fading him. Now, if Harris and Barton end up being out, and say Morris is out again, then you've got to look at Facu Campazzo at 3,500. He started and put up some big numbers against the Celtics on Tuesday. The next game is the Portland Trailblazers. They are taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans are favored by 3 here. The total is 231.5. For some reason, despite these teams being in a back-to-back, we do have a spread for this game, and I don't particularly know why we have one for this game. Billy Hernangomez at 3,800. He's playing pretty well. I wouldn't say that he is anything close to a must-roster player at this point, but he's at least in the mix if you want to look for a cheap guy. Lonzo Ball at 65 looks all right, but I do like Enes Kanter at 7,000 quite a bit. I also think we've got to give some cred, that's a bad word, to Anthony Simons. Give him some, just pump him up a bit. Give him some props. That's the word I'm looking for. 4,100 for Simons. He's playing at a pretty high level. I do like what he's doing. He's an interesting GPP guy, as is Lillard at 10,300. Well, Lillard's good for all formats, and I like Zion at 8,200 across all formats as well. Memphis and OKC. That's your next game that we're taking a look at here. Back-to-backs for these teams as well. We've got Teo Maledon back for the Thunder. We don't know about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but we can assume that Al Horford will be out because it is a back-to-back for Oklahoma City. So therefore, we are firing all the way up Isaiah Roby. Now, maybe that lets us down, but at 4,000, I'll take that risk every day of the week. You could also look at the Moose, Mike Muscala at 39, but I'll take Roby over him. Ja Morant's at 74. it continues to look like a nice price, but his production consistently hasn't been at that level. I don't mind using him. Valanciunas at 73, I think, is a really good option given the injuries there in Memphis. He should be able to put up some pretty strong numbers. And we don't know whether DeAnthony Melton or Desmond Bane will return to action. They both missed on Tuesday. And if one or two of them return, it does impact players like Kyle Anderson, Dylan Brooks, and Grayson Allen, who's been starting. I think Maladon at 5,000 is not a bad floor-ish type cash play, but there's just a lot of unknowns about this matchup at this point, making it one that I'm not super confident until we get some more information to see who is and who isn't playing. The Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors. No spread, no total, as per usual. No Goran Dragic, as per usual as well for the Heat. Andy Wiggins is at 6,300. He's sort of like a 30-point player, which is obviously really good. But at 6,300, I'd like maybe just a smidge more. 64 for Oubre feels a bit too high as well, but I don't mind the 6,800 that you do have to pay for Draymond Green. He'll start at center again. He's racking up assists. He's getting steals. He's getting blocks. He's getting rebounds. Putting up big numbers. Bam Adebayo at 86 also looks good to me, while Jim Butler is at 8,800, and he is averaging just a quiet 52 points over his last 5 games, Jimmy. I do like adding him in there, and I think he can be a pretty strong option when he's sub 9,000. Steph's up to 10.5. I'd like him at 10. I think 10.5, for as well as he's playing, I think 10.5 is probably pushing a bit too far, while Kendrick Nunn, really disappointed last game, Kendrick, and the salary came down $300, so that I think puts him back into the territory where we can use him, at least for a GPP type scenario. The Jazz, the Clippers, this is the last game of the day for Wednesday, a very busy Wednesday in the NBA. No spread or total, of course. Paul George out, Nick Batum out, but Mike Conley is questionable and Kawhi Leonard is questionable. Now, Rudy Gobert's at 7,300. I like that for Gobert. Really good salary there. And Conley's at 6.2. I wouldn't want to use Conley in his first game back from a hamstring injury. But just him being around could impact someone like Jordan Clarkson and Joe Ingles quite a bit. Zubats had a big game last time out, but I don't want to trust that. And if we do hear that Kawhi's out, someone like Terrence Mann at 4,300 absolutely becomes an option for us. Don Mitchell at 83, I would use it if Conley is out, but if Conley is in, I would fade off of Mitchell there. And then you've got someone like Clarkson at 65, which is probably a little bit too high, and the 69 for Lou Williams also feels appropriate, but probably also a little bit too high. Guys, that'll do it for me today. Quick run through, first look at DraftKings for Wednesday in the NBA. Don't forget to subscribe, bell for notifications, thumbs up and comments down below. Find my channel in the title and the description of this video, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.